Hello, everybody. All right, welcome to the Mikestand. Today is, of course, Monday, May 19th, 2025. Of course, we're going to give you a few minutes to come in before we get started. So, hopefully, everybody's had a good weekend, has had a chance to, of course, if you haven't already, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the screen, see if we can get some more friendly people in here to engage, that'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and I will try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So, yeah. So, anyways, let me see. Let me just see if we can. Who haven't we? All right. All right. So as we just wait for people to come in before we get started, let's see. Yeah. So watched one of the cartoons I watched today was Ding Dong Doggy, which was a Betty Boop cartoon featuring Pudgy, where he wanted to try to become a fire dog. He wanted to try to follow in the steps of a Dalmatian, and of course Betty would not have it. Well, you can't do that. Yeah, that's not for you. And then he, of course, escaped, went out and tried, and found that yeah, Betty was right. Ended up getting a sting. Saw another cartoon called Indian Serenade that had a very interesting. So, Indian Serenade, which was I believe, a color rhapsody. I believe it was one about an Indian boy and girl who were kind of kind of in love with each other. Kind of they were like real kids, like indie kids. So they were like being cute and stuff like that. And at one point, you saw in there the girl get hold of a snake, unskin a portion of him, and start to spank the snake. So that was kind of funny to watch. Anyways, I need to step away from the computer for a moment. I'll be right back. But what I will do, I'll put some music on while I'm gone. And then when I get back, we'll get started on tonight's topic. Right, I'm back. So anyway, okay. So here's what's on tap for tonight. We'll get right into it in a moment here. Um, Tonight we're going to we're gonna only do one article from Bounding into Comics. Um, and we're gonna Hey Pitchozo, thanks for popping in. Um, so tonight we're gonna be looking at a this will be an anime related article regarding the Windbreaker anime. Some interesting stuff there. We'll get to that in a moment. And then, of course, we're going to have a bit more of an extended wrestling wrap up tonight. There's some big events coming up this weekend, as I was talking about last night, with Under Siege on Friday from TNA. Then on Saturday, WWE will have Saturday night's main event. And then Sunday, AEW has Double or Nothing. It's Double or Nothing pay per view. And WWE will be countering that with NXT. We'll be looking, of course, back over the weekend events, from Friday Night SmackDown and Collision on Saturday, and then also looking ahead to tonight's Monday Night Raw, as well as this weekend's event. So, with that being said, let me go ahead and bring up the material for tonight, as it were. Will be the one article we'll go over tonight, and then we'll be all right. So, despite Windbreaker mangaka's own words, Western activists claim cross-dressing fighter Tatsuku Subakino is actually transgender. So once again, we get a situation where the West thinks it knows better than the person who actually created the characters. Here we go again. It's gonna be another very interesting look into the human psyche here. Article by Nerdigans Inc., published May 16th, which was Friday. All right, so here we go. So, as tends to be ironically be the case, anytime a piece of Japanese media features a character who even slightly steps outside of traditional gender norms, the debut of Tatsuku Subakino in the latest season of Cloverworks anime adaptation of Nisatoru's Windbreaker has been met with an impressive display of mental gymnastics from Western activists who believe that the canonical crossdresser is actually a transgender woman. Written and illustrated by Ni Satoru, Windbreaker follows the arrival of one Haruka Sakura, a young loner with a penchant for fighting. As he enrolls at Furin High School, the student body of which have dedicated themselves to sharpening their own combat skills in order to protect their local hometown from a variety of criminal threats. Though largely a stranger to anything considering friendship or camaraderie, Haruka soon finds himself with a new motivation to fight and dedicates himself to rising his school's ranks in order to become its top defender. So there's Haruka Sakura and Windbreaker right there. Sounds like to me it sounds like a very interesting anime. You got a whole school that's devoted to developing combat skills for the purposes of defending one's hometown. Maybe not to the same degree of My Hero Academia, obviously, but that's kind of a nice idea, right? Becoming a top fighter so you can defend your hometown from various criminal threats and dangers and all that. Very interesting premise there. Of course, in order to do so, Haruka must defeat a number of the school's best fighters, including the school's 4 heavenly kings, a quartet of students whose skills are only surpassed by the school's leader, Hajime Umemiya. Included among this group is Tatsuku Subakino, who is voiced in the Japanese by Ryoto Osaka, who provides the voice of Naoto Tachibana in Tokyo Revengers, the current leader of the Jikoku team. A quote-unquote big brother to his classmates, who's always ready to give anyone a second chance, Subakino dedicated himself to becoming the warrior he is today in order to defend his beauty, as his love of cross-dressing often draws him unwanted attacks from various bullies. Unsurprisingly, when Tatsuko made his manga debut back in 2022, many fans were quick to debate whether the Heavenly King identified as a male or a transgender female. Because nowadays, that's just what you do. You try to sit there and go, okay, is he a guy or is he transgendered? It's like, yeah, because that's a real big question, isn't it? That's a real big thing that everybody needs to focus in on, right? Anyways, continuing on here. Let's see. However, Satoru put the debate to bed in December 2024 when, during an interview with series publisher Kodansha, he explicitly confirmed that Tatsuko was a cross-dresser, not transgender. So the guy who actually created the character themselves comes out and says, no, this is what he is. This is who he is. So that can't be left to any interpretation when the person who created him said, no, this is what he is. This is who he is. He's a cross-dresser, which most likely means that he identifies primarily as a guy, but just loves to cross-dress as a girl. Quote, Subakino was planned from the start before the serialization ever began, unquote, said the mangaka. Quote, when it was decided that the story will take place in an all-boys school, I wanted to create a character who visually looked more, quote unquote, feminine. Quote. So that's the thing. So there you go. All-boys school, so basically, if he's going to an all-boys school, he has to be a guy, even if he looks feminine, even if he's a cross-dresser. He still ultimately has to be a boy. Quote, that was how Subakino's concept started, he added. Quote, then I began to really dig into his character, and personally, I really like Subakino as well, unquote. Speaking to what the fighter thinks about himself, Satoru stated, quote, in brackets, he's thinking, in smaller quotes, I feel more motivated when I feel cute and pretty, and life is just more fun that way. That's why I always want to be like this. That's one of the important core values for this character. Quote, that being said, Subakino identifies as a male, So this is the author speaking here now. So the author outright says Subakina identifies as a male, unquote. He added, and this is going to be real important, further on into the article here, um, especially with what's going on in today's world. He added, quote, he just happens to like a lot of feminine clothes and things that females are more likely to enjoy, unquote. Quote, he loves Uemiya, um, which means that he's attracted to men, but he doesn't hate himself for it, unquote. He further noted. So not only is he a cross-dresser, but I think in what the manga said, in what Satoru said here, he's basically saying that not only is he a cross-dresser, but he's gay as well. Which, of course, has its own little tidbits and pitfalls, as it were. I would imagine, especially if said love interest doesn't feel the same. uh, with that being said, let's see. Let's see. Quote. He has also accepted that his love will never be reciprocated. Uh, Subakino is just a character that is honest to himself and others about what he loves. Unquote. Fair enough. Yet, despite Satoru's clear explanation of Tatsuko's character, following the Heavenly King's debut at the end of the 5th episode of Windbreaker's 2nd season, A Place I Belong, some of the series' more terminally online fans took to social media to try and push the narrative that the cross-dressing gay man was truly a transgender woman. Oh, there you go, folks. Despite the fact that the guy who created the character pretty much stated outright that he was a cross-dressing gay man or gay male, the online crowd seems to think that no, they know better than the guy who created him. That no, he's not a cross-dressing gay man or gay male. He is a transgender woman. Go figure. Quote, it's nice to see a manga anime that isn't actually, I do have to step away from the camera because I just realized something. I'll be right back. I should have did this, especially knowing this. I should have probably did this at the very beginning of the. But anyways, I'll be right back here. Yeah, so I just realized I probably should have closed the windows before I started the show, because I don't think my neighbors would have needed or wanted to hear some of the stuff that was being presented. Obviously, my bad. He's a drag queen, plain and simple. That's one way of looking at it. Quote, it's nice to see a manga anime that isn't afraid to give a MILF character a big jaw, and wide shoulders without diminishing how cute they are because of it. Unquote. Said at Dune Nuttis. Quote, feels natural and fresh compared to the usual smaller small quote draw a girl, call it a boy thing. Um, they usually go for, unquote. So again, despite the fact that the guy who created the character identified it as, a cross-dressing gay male or drag queen, as some people would call it. Apparently, the online folks think they know better than the person who actually created the character, which is, of course, an incredibly asinine thing to think. But, then again, the woke crowd, they are just asinine to begin with. So, kind of goes with the territory, I'd say. Let's see. Furthering on with the article here, quote: "How in the world anyone can say this is not trans representation?" Unquote. Tweeted at GBayCac. Well, very very simple. The guy who created the character outright said he wasn't transgendered. The guy outright said that he was a cross-dressing gay male. Quote, gonna be dark woke here for a sec and say the whole, in smaller quote, oh, despite dressing and acting like this, this character actually identifies as a man, smaller quote, makes no sense, argued, quote, at worst girl ever. Okay. Quote, if she identifies as a man, then why does she dresses and acts like a woman? Are you stupid? No, they're not stupid. That's actually been kind of a segment of society that's been going on for as long as the whole concept of cross-dressing, drag queens, gay males, and all that have been in existence. It's but basically, I think just people who just push the whole trans agenda probably all need to be locked in the asylum. It comes down to it. Quote: some of y'all seem to want Subaki to look dead in the camera and into your soul and say, quote, I am a trans woman and identify exclusively as a woman, in small quote, before you'll acknowledge it, unquote, at Bo Furin bleated, quote, media literacy and context clues are foreign to some of you, unquote. Okay, I don't know if that statement was actually for or against the idea. Couldn't really tell there that statement was for or against the idea that they were a trans woman. But anyways, continuing on here. This insulting of Satoru's original work only escalated after the airing of the following episode, Hidden Feelings. A flashback episode detailing the young Subaki's struggle with his identity. It reveals that while he originally felt ashamed of his love of girly things, he was ultimately able to accept this part of himself thanks to the love and support shown to him by his adopted grandparents. Of course, rather than taking the episode at face value for what it was outright telling them, these activist fans instead touted its story as a depiction of the, quote, in the smaller quotes, typical transgender experience, unquote. Quote, people are saying this character ain't trans, unquote, at Medges Cold noted, retweeting a scene from said episode, quote, okay, laugh out loud, the sun isn't hot, unquote. Yeah, just the thing about, just again, the thing about these people just grasping at straws here is just the, as some people say, the mental gymnastics here are incredible. This is obviously, I'm hoping that Metal is watching because I'm sure he might have some things to say about this particular anime and manga. That's when we're talking about the whole idea of how activists seem to think they know better than the person who actually created the character. Oh boy, this I just cannot wait to see what Metal has to say about this story. So, quote, Tsubaki is, in brackets, a transgender woman, unquote, proclaimed Oracle Morosis. More like Oracle Moronus, but quote, that's a woman. Being a man putting on lipstick is a normal thing. Being transgender isn't, unquote. Oh boy. Quote, I don't care what anyone says to me, unquote, declared at Stupid Star Stupid Star Slut. Okay, a brilliant name for the person. Stupid Star Slut Fool. Quote, Subaki is a trans woman because there is no cis explanation for this. Contrary to what the, you know, well, the cis explanation comes from the very person who created the character themselves. It's just undeniably astronomical how, despite the very person who created the character, according to these people, these activists, seem to think they know better than than what the actual person who created it meant. Uh, it's just incredible. Just incredible. Just incredible, incredible, incredible. Let's see. Retweeting a portion of the above interview at Radiant Soulless decried, quote, why do Japanese authors love to write trans women, then take every chance to say that the character is actually just a regular cis dude with no trans coding whatsoever? Because they're not mentally unstable like people who try to push the transgender ideology on everybody. Maybe that's because that their intent is not transgender, that the person actually is a male, somebody who's male who just happens to like dressing up like a woman. Let's see. Sharing the same excerpt at Malandraws asserted, quote, I really don't trust people who accept this non-critically, With all due respect, it doesn't matter that much what Sensei states in some interview. The political state is such that we need to reclaim Tsubaki and end the ambiguous trans rep trope for good, unquote. So basically they say that regardless of the fact that the person who created the character, the person who stated outright that this is who the person is, who and what the person is, again, these mentally unstable individuals seem to think they know better than the person who created the better know what they meant for the character to be. That's like saying that God said that for humans need to survive, they needed to eat and drink, eat food and drink water, and then people saying that no, even though God said that we need to eat food and drink water, we don't need to do that. We actually needed to eat grass and drink pee. That's kind of the, while God said, that people need to eat food and drink water, know that we as people, that, against the grain, against what God said, we think, no, we need to eat grass and drink urine. So, I mean, again, just people are just stupid, mentally unstable. At current, Satoru has yet to respond to the backlash from Western fans. While it's unlikely that he'll give them the time of day, which I think he should. I think most people would agree that even if he did, he'd likely just tell them to refer back to his talk with Kodansha. Yeah, I mean, I think as we're seeing more and more, I think we're seeing that more and more people are just going to go, hey, look, I've already stated what it is. You can either accept it or not, and that's that. So anyways, but again, I'm definitely going to try later on. Of course, tonight, I'll probably, when I say hi to Metals, to the Vomitory tonight, I'll mention it to him and see what he has to say. But anyways, I do need to step away from the I do need to step away from the camera for a moment. I'll be right back. I'll be right back. All right, we're back. So that's all. That's the only article we were going to go over tonight because I did. We're already past 30. We're already past the half hour mark. But a big part of the reason, of course, is as I said earlier, we have quite a bit to go over on the rest. So we're going to move on to the wrestling wrap up here. And of course, we're going to look back over the weekend here. We're going to look back to SmackDown from Friday night, Collision on Saturday, and then of course, we're going to look ahead to tonight's to tonight's look ahead to tonight's Monday Night Raw, as we have a big weekend in terms of big events. We have, of course, TNA doing Rebellion. We have Rebellion for tonight. On Friday night for TNA. Saturday, WWE will have its night's main event, and then Sunday will be, of course, Double or Nothing for AEW, as well as WNXT Battleground. So what we're going to do now, so we're now going to take a look back. We're going to go back to Friday night to SmackDown. So on this past Friday's as tonight's SmackDown, and what some might say is the so on this past Friday night's SmackDown, which was from the Coliseum, Greensboro Coliseum in Greensboro, North Carolina, live on USA Network from Joe Tessitore and Ray Barrett on Friday on SmackDown. In the women's in a women's triple threat match for the first qualifier, the Money in the Bank match coming up at in June's Money in the Bank in the qualifying for the Money in the Bank match. Alexa Bliss defeated Chelsea Green and Meechin in the triple threat match for to advance to the Money in the Bank, the women's Money in the Bank match. For Money in the Bank, it's a ladder match with 6 participants, in which the first two in which a contract, a Money in the Bank contract that they can use to earn a shot at a contract for a world title. That's what they're vying for. That will last for the next year. So Alexa Bliss is the first for the women's Money in the Bank qualified for that. Fraxium continues its hot start as they won DIY they defeated DIY in a match as they continued their undefeated streak since being called up to the NXT in its NXT call up. After the match, of course, DIY tried to assault Fraxium, only for the Motor City Machine Guns to come out and to make the save from Aleister Black defeated Carmelo Hayes by a DQ when Miz interfered in the match. And In the men's Money in the Bank qualifier triple threat match, Solo Sikoa defeated Jimmy Uso and Rey Fenix to advance to the men's, who, of course, he had Intercontinental Champion Jacob Fatu and JC Mateo in his corner. And then JC Mateo defeated LA Knight with some help from of course, from Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu. And in the main event of the evening, saw Tiffany Stratton retain the WWE Women's title over Nia Jax, as she, of course, she having won the number one contendership against Jade Cargill last week, just went on to come up short in her attempt to regain the women's title over Jade Cargill. Now, as we move ahead to Saturday, AEW's day 2 of their Beach Break event on Collision, coming from the Now Arena in Hoffman Estates in Illinois. Opening match saw Megan Bayne defeated Anna Jay, executing the her version of the F5, the kind of the spinning free fall drop to the ground. Kyle Fletcher regaining some momentum by defeating AR Fox in a one-on-one match. Bandito wrote in a 6-man tag match. Bandito, Brody King, and New Japan Strong openweight champion Tomohiro Ishii defeated the Don Callis family of Lance Archer and Roppongi Vice veteran team of Roppongi Vice of Trent Beretta and Rocky Romero. Mike Bailey defeated Blake Christian. After the match, of course, he called out AEW Continental Champion Mike Bailey, only to be ambushed by the LFI duo of Dralistico and Roosh. In a Chicago street fight, the Learning Tree gained some further momentum by defeating the Gates of Agony in a very violent match in just under 14 minutes. In a number one contendership match for the AEW World Tag Team title, which I'll talk about that even more in a moment. The Sons of Texas, the current Ring of Honor World Tag Team champions, Dustin Rhodes and Sammy Guevara, earned a shot, became the number one contender of the AEW World Tag Team titles over the crew of Action Andretti and Leo Rush. And then the main event saw Powerhouse, 1/3 of the AEW World Trios champions, Powerhouse Hobbs, defeat former Trios champion and Death Riders member Wheeler Yuta. So I need to once again go off camera here for a quick moment, so I'll be right back. But as I said, I'll put some music on for you guys. I'm gone. I'll be right back. All right. Anyways, so now that we're back to that, so now let's look ahead to tonight's Monday Night Raw, as this will be, of course, the Go Home Raw, heading into this Saturday night's main event. with Michael Cole and Pat McAfee on commentary on Netflix, coming from the Bon Secours Wellness Arena in Greenville, South Carolina. They'll have AJ Styles and Penta teaming up against the Judgment Day duo Finn Balor and JD McDonough. In a women's Money in the Bank qualifying match, triple threat qualifying match, Kairi Sane will take on Zoe Stark, and they'll also take on. So the women's Money in the Bank qualifying match tonight will see Kairi Sane taking on Zoe Stark and Rhea Ripley. In the men's triple threat qualifying match for Money in the Bank. Well, actually, I'm sorry, and it's actually another. I'm sorry, not the men's. It's actually another women's. So two women's qualifying match. You'll see Natalya versus Becky Lynch and Roxanne Perez in a qualifying triple threat match. Now, some interesting news that came out over the weekend, of course. Now, Natalya was allowed to compete at the NWA Crockett Cup. And with that, Natalya, during the show, she ended up assaulting a fan, apparently, which caused a little bit of stir, but some people are saying that this might have been a work. But anyways, further things going on. Of course, Sheamus takes on Grayson Waller on tonight's Raw. In a non-title match heading into this Saturday night's tonight, the non-title match for the world champion Jey Uso will be taking on Braun Breaker. So that's what now looking ahead to this weekend's bigger events. We're going to look ahead, of course, first off to this Saturday's TNA. The TNA, as looking ahead to Friday night's I guess we'll have to on tonight, on Friday at Rebellion. This is what you have to look forward to this coming Friday's Under Siege event this Friday. As soon as I get all that. So from Brampton, Ontario, and Canada, at the CAA Center in Brampton, Ontario, Canada, on TNA plus being broadcast live on TNA Plus. So the opening match the opening match on the night, we'll see Tessa Blanchard with Robert Stone in her Tessa Blanchard will be taking on Adriana Grace, or Ariana Grace. In a one-on-one match that was set up by Robert Stone. Robert Stone will be in the corner of Tessa Blanchard, while Santino Marella will be on in the corner of Ariana Grace. Mike Santana will be taking on AJ Francis in a match that was set up on this past week's episode of Impact. After AJ Francis had run down LA, and his guest on the night, O'Shea Jackson Jr., came out to defend for okay, so also on the show, the Elegance brand defends the TNA Knockouts World Tag Team Champion against former champs Spitfire. Eddie Edwards takes on Cody Deaner, who will be believed to be his last official match in TNA. Masa Slamovich will be defending the Knockouts World title against Victoria Crawford. Let's see. Also, let's see. The Nemeth will be defending the TNA World Tag Team titles in what was originally going, which is going to be as the Hardys contractual rematch obligation, the contractual their contractual their contractual rematch close, but due to the fact that due to his own legal issues, Jeff Hardy was unable to be able to go into Canada. So Leon Slater will be teaming with Matt Hardy to go after the will be going after the tag team titles, and then the main event will see Frankie Kazarian teaming with NXT's Trick Williams to take on Elijah and TNA World Champion Joe Hendry. Anyways, come on, Mike. Get into this here. All right, so that's happening this weekend. That's of course coming up for that's on Friday. Then coming up on Saturday. On Saturday, WWE will have the Saturday will be WWE will be, of course, having its Saturday night's main event, which, of course, will be on NBC with Michael Cole and Pat McAfee for the will have and they'll have and it will be and the Saturday night's main event will be from the Yodeling Center in in um, Tampa, Florida. In the it already slated for the slated for the already stated for the for the for this Saturday night's main event. Drew McIntyre will be taking on Damian Priest in a steel cage match. In a tag team match, CM Punk takes on Sami Zayn to take on Braun Breaker and Seth Rollins. Jey Uso will be defending the WWE World Heavyweight title against Logan Paul, and then for the undisputed WWE title, John Cena will. Well, okay, even though it was stated as such, apparently WWE has since come out and said that it will actually not be for the title. John Cena will be taking on R-Truth as for the let's see. Now with that being said, of course, for Sunday, coming up on Sunday, you have two events. You have, of course, for AEW, we'll be having you'll be having its Double or Nothing pay-per-view. And on this Sunday, of course, at Double or Nothing, this is, of course, the two big events are the conclusion of the Owen Hart tournament, in which the winners of the Owen Hart tournament each receive a world title shot against their respective title holders. So in the men's tournament final, you have Adam Page taking on Will Ospreay, and then the women's title in what is also considered a non-title match as the AEW champion Mercedes Moné will be taking on Jamie Hayter in the women's final. Also on the card, you'll have Daniel Garcia and Nigel McGuinness taking on FTR's Dax Harwood and Cash Wheeler in the opening event for the in the opening of the match. Mark Briscoe takes on Ricochet in a one-on-one match. The Hurt Syndicate will be defending the World Tag Team titles against the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champions, the Sons of Texas of Sammy Guevara and Dustin Rhodes. Tony Storm will be defending against the AEW Women's World Title against Miya Shirakawa, and the as yet to be determined who will actually be involved in the main event is set to be Anarchy in the Arena, with the actual participants set to be set to be set for the event there. Now, with that now, of course, we have as opposing the WWE event coming up on Monday. Aside from having, of course, the Saturday Night's Main event on Saturday, they will also be having the NXT Battleground event on Sunday. Battleground, which will be taking place on Sunday, May the 25th, from the Younglung Center in Sol Ruka will be defending the the NXT Women's North American title against a mystery opponent. Tony D'Angelo will be taking on Channing Lorenzo in a one-on-one match. Joe Hendry will be defending the TNA World title on an NXT show against Trick Williams. Stephanie Vaquer defends the NXT Women's title against Jordan Grace, and then Obafemi will be defending the NXT title against Miles Bourne. So that's all we got for the wrestling wrap up. Took me a little longer than I hoped for some whatever reason. I wasn't able to get stuff out as quickly as I usually do. Sorry about that. But anyways, now with all that being said, so we're done with the wrestling wrap up now. So now what we're going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and move on to this day in Nietzsche history. As today is Monday, May the 19th, 2025. So we're going to take a look back at this day, Nietzsche history. So, all right. So first off, I'm going to head back to the year 1935, as on this date in 1935, Fleischer Studios, The Kids in the Shoe, premiered in theaters on this date back in 1935. So 90 years ago today, the Fleischer Studios color classic, The Kids in the Shoe, which was a humorous retelling of the classic nursery rhyme, premiered in in theaters on this date back in 1935. So now, moving ahead to the next piece of Nietzsche history here. On this date in 1955, 70 years ago today, Bobo Brazil and Frankie Taliber defeated Dick Hutton and Buddy Rogers for the MWA American Tag Team Champions. Of course, Dick Hutton was sitting there subbing for the Great Scott. So on this date in 1955, 70 years ago today, Bobo Brazil and Frankie Taliber defeated Buddy Rogers and Dick Hutton for the the Midwestern Wrestling Association's American Tag Team title. And finally, as soon as I that all taken care of here, finally we move ahead to the year 2010, which is only, of course, 15 years ago today. On this date, 15 years ago today, in the year 2010, the fifth and final issue of Transformers Last Stand of the Wreckers, the fifth and final issue of Transformers Last Stand of the Wreckers, premiered on went to sale on newsstands. IDW's fifth issue of IDW's Transformers: Last Stand of the Wreckers went on sale on its date back in 2010. Sold for $3.99. It was $25 or 25 pages. So with that, I thank everybody for being here tonight. I hope everybody enjoyed the show. Of course, I hope to be I hope to do better tomorrow. I don't know what was going on with me today, but I'll be back here with more Niche News tomorrow, of course. Also, of course, don't forget this coming Sunday, I'll be joined by Apex from Apex Comics. We'll be looking back at comics that went on sale in May of 1940. We'll be focusing in on comics that went on sale from Quality, I believe. So with that, I thank everybody for being here, and I hope to see everybody back here tomorrow. Bye.